Welcome, everybody. Doug Barry here. Appreciate you joining me for this. Hey, it's almost Christmas. All right, I'm going live here 2 days before Christmas. It is December 23rd. And BRC, myself, Doug Barry, BRC, and everybody behind the scenes on our team here, the Be Ready Coalition, Battle Ready Coalition, wants to wish you a very merry, blessed, holy, incredible Christmas season. You know, we've been going through Advent. We're near the end of Advent right now. Obviously, tomorrow is New Year's Eve day. And the New Year's Eve, Christmas on Thursday, and then boom, then the celebration. And all this time preparing through Advent was to get ready for Jesus coming into the world. And we do this every year. And we think about, what Advent can do for our souls if we take it seriously. I had a great podcast recently on U.S. Grace Words with Father Chris Alar, and he was talking about how we always had major times of fasting and preparation before big events in the church, such as Lent and, of course, Christmas, two of the most amazing and monumental moments in the history of mankind. But they're connected. And, where are we headed? This is something we want to talk about. Now, we're going to be doing another live video next week after New Year's, or before New Year's, right before New Year's. And then right after New Year's on January 5th, we're going to be doing a full 1 hour live on all kinds of things going on in the world, what 2026 may bring us, good, bad, up, down, left, right, and what we should do in response to that, how we should be looking, what our perspective should be regarding what's happening in the world, and what our role is as Christians. In particular, when we see things rising up, different warning signs that are out there, threats, not things that are coming, things that are not just at our door, things that are already in the house in some ways. And so we need to take a good look at that. And while I don't want to put a damper on Christmas, 2 days before Christmas here, we do want to be aware of the threats and the warning signs that are out there. So we'll address a couple in just a moment, but I want to say this. Why did Jesus come into the world? We know the reason for the season is Jesus. We know those terms, those phrases. It's not about the shopping. It's not about the decorations. It's not just about the food. It is about celebration. Absolutely. Without a doubt. There's all kinds of things to celebrate. Everything revolving around, of course, the light of the world coming into a world that is filled with darkness. That is the point. Jesus being born into this world, not just a cute child in a manger, but Jesus being born into the world to bring light, hope, peace, salvation to the world. So, for so many years when I would do the one-man drama of the Passion of Christ, which gearing up to potentially be doing that again in 2026, what I try to bring out oftentimes is he was born in that stable for the purpose of growing to become a man, teaching, giving the truth to the world, and then laying his life down on the cross, and then rising from the grave, and then ascending into heaven, opening the gates of heaven, giving us this amazing gift to embrace if we choose to cooperate with that grace. So the light of the world coming into the world for the sake of saving us from the darkness of the world has never changed. We see darkness all around us. We know we all struggle with our own personal, battles, our own demons, our own sins. We should be getting to confession regularly, of course. 2026 be a good time for us to, look at our spiritual diet, look at the things that we're doing, our behaviors, our spiritual workouts, and see how we're exercising, those aspects of our faith, and if we're doing it as well as we could and should. So 2026 is the time for that. It's also a time to be looking at, if we want to bring in the resolution idea. Yes, there's resolution, resolve to do something different. Every time I walk out of the confessional, I should resolve to deal with those sins that I've been battling, not fall into them again. There should always be resolution in our hearts and in our souls. I resolve not to go here. I resolve to do this, to be more disciplined, to grow, to be holier, and so forth, more virtuous. But there are things happening in the world that we need to be aware of, be concerned about, and we shouldn't turn a blind eye to, because there are enemies out there that will take advantage of these times. And so while our prayers and our sacrifices and our fastings and our proper order of praise, rejoicing, celebration, all these things need to be in the right place. The perspective needs to be good, clear, and strong in these areas. There is also an important, very important piece of this, and that is to not be ignoring or be unaware of what's happening around us as well. It's easy to be detached from the news. I get it. And I don't like to really get into a lot of news. I pay attention because I have to, because of what I do for a living, communicate, evangelize, and speak about these things in various ways on our different platforms. BR Coalition, BRC on my sweatshirt here and my hat, Be Ready Coalition, be ready. be battle ready. The Battle Ready Coalition, originally, the idea behind this is that we are prepared, body, mind, and soul, to deal with whatever comes our way. The only way to truly be ready, to be a coalition of men and women who are ready for battle, ready for any kind of struggle, crisis in the world, is if we turn to Christ. That is the root of it all. There is no way around that. To be more prepared, body, mind, and soul, to be spiritually prepared, emotionally, mentally prepared, and naturally prepared as well. We have our BREP course, the Be Ready Emergency Preparedness course, for example, that we offer through brcoalition.com. We have that. We have all kinds of free downloads for spiritual warfare, how to protect your house, how to deal with even storing up water, food, shelter, these types of things, building a bug out bag. All these things can be found on our BR Coalition YouTube channel or at brcoalition.com. So check those things out. Those are great things to continue to be, attuned to. But in light of what's happening in our world right now, we do need to be taking a much more serious look. There are things happening in the news. If you're not familiar, you've been watching what's going on in Venezuela with the narco terrorists and the drug boats that have been blown up out of the water. And of course, now we've got the embargo around Venezuela because of all the illegal oil that Maduro is trying to send out to places like Iran and other places in the world. And so we see a ramping up of something happening in the Caribbean. Now, debate if you want, and be careful around the Christmas, meal table there when you're celebrating with family about these things. Don't let it just become politics. Let it become right, wrong. Have the conversation about what's right, what's wrong in the eyes of God. Now, that's a big one for some people I know, because with immigration, that's a big one there where people will throw out, well, if Jesus was around right now, he would have been taken by ICE and deported. No, scripturally, if you look at the story, Joseph did what was legal. Okay, the reason they were in Bethlehem was because he was following the Roman law, because he was under the jurisdiction. They lived under the jurisdiction of Rome, and they had to do what they said. So they went to the census, and they went to do what they were called to do. And even when he fled into Egypt, and I heard a priest talk about this, that one doesn't work either. When people say, I fled to Egypt, they were refugees, they were sneaking into a country. No, they were, at the time, it was under jurisdiction of the law of the land of Rome. And so they were able to do what they needed to do, but they did it legally. Okay, so let's set that aside for a moment, because that's a big contentious issue, I know right now, and could be around the dinner table when it comes to Christmas celebration and getting together with family and friends. But let's understand that there is a right that we have to defend and protect ourselves in this world. And right now we have threats coming at us left, right, middle, center, up, down, you name it. I'm not talking about political threats. I'm talking about threats such as, for example, what's going on with the rise of the Islamification of the United States that is growing, and it's growing rapidly. Now, again, this is not doom and gloom. This is not apocalyptic talk. This is reality. This is what you see in the news. It's happening. We saw the election back in November when Mamdani was elected mayor of New York City. And what do we know about this? Socialist, communist guy with Islamic, he's Islam, right? He's Muslim. Right, we see what's going on there. You've got organization running around now in places in New York called the MCP, the Muslim Community Patrol. They've got police cars. It's been reported. Now, I'm doing some looking into this to make sure some of the stuff is verifiable, but it looks like it is. Police cars that look a lot like New York City police cars. You got Muslim guys driving around these police cars, patrolling the community, and they're dressed in uniforms that look like law enforcement. We also know there are threats out there, and we've heard this from different sources, intelligence sources. They've been on other podcasts that are out there talking about the threat of a multi-city attack against this country, the United States of America right now, an Islamic multi-city attack. That's in the chatter right now. It's going on behind the scenes. They're talking about the possibility of them buying uniforms or buying up uniforms for law enforcement, first responders. And then if something bad happens, you've got serious attack here or there, they come rolling up on the scene and they're in uniforms and people start to trust, and then things get even worse. So these are the threats that are out there currently. Now, we know this stuff is legit in some respect because of what has happened even recently with the story of the individuals that were arrested by the FBI for plotting a terrorist attack against Los Angeles. This has been in the news. You can look up the headlines and you'll find it. FBI has arrested at least 4 members, alleged pro-Palestinian radical members who want to drop at least 4 or 5 improvised explosive devices in the LA area on New Year's Eve. A similar attack was also talked about in the UK, where two men just reported this morning, two men were also arrested in the UK. But you see this right here. This is a legitimate concern that's going on right now in America and in other parts of the world. This is not just here in America. The idea of Islamification of America, they are not joking around about this. They're as serious as a heart attack. And they're taking steps to do that already. If you've been following at all the news, what's happened in Minneapolis with the up to $8 or $9 billion fraud scandal that's been going on Governor Tim Walz's watch, of course, Somalian community predominantly behind it, Islamic. And some of that money going back to Somalia, allegedly, potentially to terrorist groups. All that's being investigated right now. I can't say here or there about that, but I know that that's what's been brought up in the news. So we've got that happening as well. We've got Dearborn, Michigan. Many protests going on in Dearborn, Michigan over the last month or two regarding, again, Islamification of America. And Americans are starting to stand up more and saying, no, we're not going to take this. You can't force Sharia law on us. You can't just set up no-go zones in your communities. And yet it's already happening in some areas. Parts of Dearborn you just wouldn't want to walk through. You wouldn't want to go through as a Christian. In fact, there's a Christian man out there right now he's boldly claiming it. He's boldly claiming that this is a Judeo-Christian based country and we're not going to accept Islamification in America. And he's being threatened. They're threatening to kill him and all kinds of things like this are going on. So this is currently active in our country right now in America and many other places, Europe in particular. A lot of Europe is pretty much done when it comes to really being able to stand their ground on this. Poland, a whole different story. I'm going to talk about Poland in another video. But Poland, a whole nother story, what they're doing to try to protect and guard their country, their culture, and Christianity there. And it's really phenomenal. So we'll talk about that more in an upcoming video. But again, this is happening in the United States. Now, there are several states that have banned Sharia law. One of the more recent ones is Texas, Governor Abbott in Texas, because when Islamic groups come in and they set up shop and they start buying up neighborhoods and they set up Islamic centers and they start getting into city council and local legislative communities and such, and they start establishing areas where they can start pushing laws and so forth. Well, this is what happened in Texas. Governor Abbott signed into law a ban of Sharia law in Sharia cities. So they can't set up their communities. They were trying to build some big, epic city in Dallas area. Now they've got mosques all over the place. This is happening everywhere. They set up mosques. They'll just build them and move into these neighborhoods, and they'll harass sometimes other neighbors so they can get them to move out, and then they'll buy up that property. And what you've got then is a gradual taking over of these communities. This is not in any way, trust me, I'm not making this stuff up. This is not in any way just hearsay. It is not in any way my opinion. These are things that have been happening and going on for quite some time now. You see the protests that encounter in response to this. So Governor Abbott, very adamant about this. We're not going to have these Sharia laws. You can't set up Sharia courts in this country that violate and contradict the Constitution of the United States of America. You can't do that unless the laws change. And that's what they want to do. Change the laws so that these Sharia courts can be put in place so that they can dominate eventually. Now, this is just one aspect. We talk about Islam, it's one aspect. You've got the left, you've got communism, socialism, you've got all this growing as well in different areas. You've got the whole transgender movement. You've got all these different threats that are out there. Now, recently also, Governor Abbott, because of what he did, he also is going after CAIR, C-A-I-R, Council of American Islamic Relations. This is an organization that has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly because I'm not in a position legally to say this or that, except this is what's being reported. And so Governor Abbott has really come down hard on CAIR because of the alleged ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Some say alleged, some say it's not alleged. We just got to be safe here so as not to get taken off of YouTube. And what you find now is CAIR is countersuing. They're suing, basically not countersuing, they're suing in federal court against Governor Abbott for that accusation, because what it would do then is prevent them from buying up property in Texas. So you see what's happening in the courts now. We don't have the Knights Templar riding in on horses. We don't have the crusade. You don't have the sword against sword out there in a field somewhere. The violence is happening. Absolutely. We see how this happens when Boko Haram breaks into a school, kidnaps a bunch of high school girls, several hundred. This has been going on for quite some time now. Many are lost for good. Some killed, some returned. adults, priests being murdered. This is happening in various places of the world. A lot of sexual assault and violence goes on anytime you have a lot of this migrant movement into different communities like the UK, like parts of America as well. When this happens, though, we don't necessarily always compare it to times like the Crusades, because it's not so much that bloody war between thousands of men here and thousands of men here, and now you've got this conflict in a big field somewhere, but it is happening. The violence does happen. There's no doubt about it. Look at Bondi Beach in Australia, another perfect example of, again, this rise of the Islamification, if you will, of a nation, of a society, and the violence that comes from that, the jihad that comes from that. Well, along those lines, you see a lot of the battle taking place in the courts, in elections, like a Mamdani getting elected in New York City. If anybody's thinking for even a moment that he's not going to be pro-Islam and let's water things down here so we can allow this to grow here, then you're not paying attention to so much of what was reported about what he said and where his background is, where he comes from. This is all staring at us in the face. At a time now, we're about to celebrate Christmas. Now, I know someone would say, well, you're really bringing the Christmas joy down, Doug. That's not the point. But the point is also not to overlook what Christmas is about. Jesus coming into the world, the light of the world, comes into the world because the world has darkness. We have to deal with that darkness. Now, we're supposed to be vehicles of that light in the world for others. But the light isn't just the nice, precious moment Bible appearance of the creche, the nice, beautiful nativity scene of the cute little images in it. This is a very real battle from the beginning of Jesus' birth. How long was it? Within what, just a very short amount of time, when Herod demanded that all boys 2 and under be murdered in the entire region, trying to basically carpet bomb an area to have Jesus caught up in that murder and hopefully killed, because Herod knew that this new king that had been prophesied was now here. So even from the very beginning, the devil has not wanted to let this salvation story unfold. He is the light of the world. He comes into a world that's filled with darkness. And we see examples of the darkness, whether it's human trafficking to, we can just go down the line, the godlessness across the board that's taking place in our world. And has from the beginning of the fall of man, yes, but there's a different something in the air right now. It's different for many reasons. And we'll talk about that in future videos, especially don't forget January 5th. Look for another video next week after Christmas, beginning of the week, Monday or Tuesday next week. I'm going to go live again. Then on the 5th, we're going to be doing the full event about what we're really doing. And I really want to key on Psalm 144. Psalm 144, verse 1. This is from David, King David. By the way, this one of the swords in the back corner here, the big one, that is actually King David's sword. I love the story of King David, how he took on Goliath, but not just how he took on Goliath, but how God says, this is a man after my own heart. A heart after my own heart, he says about David. That's the only character in Scripture that God says that about. Is a man who was a warrior. He was a poet. Yes, he was a shepherd, which was really like the lowest blue-collar job you could get back at that time. So raising him up from such humble beginnings and anointing him, as Samuel did, and made him king by the power of God. And this is a man who, in all of his mistakes and misgivings, yes, wrote the Psalms, so many of the Psalms, and gives us such great ways to praise God. In Psalm 144, where he states in there, praise be, blessed be the Lord my God, my rock, who trains my hands for battle, prepares my fingers for war. This is God wanting to train us up. And some would say, well, that's only spiritual, Doug. In most cases, yes, it's always spiritual, because 24/7 we are under that spiritual attack. But that's not the only way sometimes we have to protect and defend. And I don't want to necessarily leave it on that point, but I have to, because I'm about to wrap this up. And what I want to say then is, while we must be spiritually prepared 24/7, 365, without a doubt, because the attacks of the enemy, the world, the flesh, and the devil are constant and they are relentless. We must be deep in prayer, constantly trying to find God on a deeper level, find him in a more deep relationship. Just like the St. Thomas Aquinas moment, who had written, Aquinas, the Prince of Theologians, has written the most amazing things out there about theology. And yet God touched him towards the end of his life and gave him a spiritual ecstasy that took him to a whole other level. And when he came out of that spiritual moment, he wanted to burn everything that he had written. He said, it's straw compared to what God just revealed to me. So we can all find God more deeply. And I want to help you with that. We want to help with that with BRC, with this channel, with all the work that we should be doing, all of us in this world, trying to help people find God more deeply. So this Christmas season, I hope and pray you find God more deeply. But also, let's not lower our guard, because on the natural level, even there, we need to be prepared for whatever God may allow to come our way. And so we do that with BRC. You check out our beercoalition.com and you see our BREP course, and the other things that we have out there are to help you be better prepared in a physical manner, in case, heaven forbid, we have another one of these terrorist attacks, like what we heard they just stopped in LA on New Year's Eve, what they were going to try to launch there. We know these things happen. We know it. And if they are successful, like they were with the 9/11 type attack or the Bondi Beach attack recently, or how many other moments where we have seen and heard of the screams of Allahu Akbar, and then they come in and there's a suicide bomber or gunfire. And a lot of people just have no idea what to do because they have not comprehended or thought about, processed any of this. We want to help with that if we can. That's a tough thing to do in today's world. Like, I mean, how do you address this? It's not easy, but it begins with prayer. It begins with prayer, deeper prayer. Find God on a deeper level. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope and pray you have an amazing Christmas in a couple of days. And again, this is 23rd of December that we're putting this out right now live. I hope and pray you have an amazing Christmas, an amazing Christmas season, because it goes on for weeks. Don't take that tree down right away. Come on, enjoy, celebrate, but keep your guard up. All right, God bless and strengthen you. Don't forget, January 5th is the day we're going to be doing the big hour event. And we're going to be talking about really what it means to be trained up and prepared the way God wants us to for 2026. And this is not a battle. Yeah, it's kind of a battle cry, isn't it? Yeah. Because we're in the thick of something spiritually, first and foremost, that I don't think we've ever confronted on this level. I know there are those who will say, well, we've always had sin in the world. Yeah, but there's something different in the air right now. And that's not me saying that alone. There are a lot of people out there who really believe that we're on the brink of something that God's going to do or allow for the sake, always, he does none of this except for the sake of trying to bring as many souls to him as possible. January 5th, please keep your eyes open for that and look forward to having you sign up for that event. Or it's going to be a live event. I think we're going to do something along these lines. We'll keep you informed. Okay, so stay close, follow along, and I appreciate you being with me. Share this with others. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all those amazing things that help us continue to do this work and get the word out to many, many, many people out there. Check out brcoalition.com, our YouTube channel, with great information on how to get prepared, water, food, shelter, and other things. Go to brcoalition.com and get those free downloads. Get some great free downloads out there, spiritual warfare downloads, all kinds of great stuff. So check them out. Merry, blessed, holy Christmas to you all. God bless and strengthen you. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.